Hello everyone, the aim of this video is that you can get an idea of how to put into practice in the classroom the strategies that I presented to you in a previous video. I hope that you apply it to your classes and moreover that your students can achieve the expected learning outcomes of the English course. The material I am using is material that I found surfing the web, but I have adapted it to fit the topics we find in the English program at Competency. I hope you enjoy watching and that the activities can be useful in your English as a foreign language classroom.
This activity is called Drawing Dictation. And I first started by setting the students into teams. In this case, I arranged teams of 4 members each. Once the teams were all set, we continued by brainstorming vocabulary about clothing and weather, which was the topic we were reviewing throughout this activity. It is always a good idea to brainstorm or plan a warm-up activity in order to activate previous knowledge. Remember, a warm-up activity helps students to start thinking in English and sets the mood to start the lesson. And it does not need to be too long. 5 minutes might be enough. So, students brainstorm all the information we were going to need in order to carry out the activity. This information included vocabulary and grammatical structures to express what people were wearing and what the weather was like. For example, she or he is wearing blue jeans and it's rainy or it's windy. And the students actually did great. They did not look at their notes or books for the warm-up activity. After brainstorming, I gave them the instructions, which they understood very well. It is worth mentioning that all the class was carried out in the target language. Since the very beginning, I started the class by greeting and welcoming them in English. And I also told them I needed them to speak English, the whole class. I really want to encourage you as teachers of a foreign language to expose your students to the target language most of your class time. This will help them to increase confidence in vocabulary. And I bet soon your students will start getting used to speaking English in class. If you are not one of the teachers who teach his or her class in English, I strongly recommend you to do it. It will bring great advantages to your class. Continuing with the activity, they worked in couples within the teams. I assigned a couple to be A and the other couple to be B in each team. I gave a drawing to couples A and I explained that they had to dictate the drawing to couples B. And couples B did not have to see the drawing for any reason. They only had to listen to whatever couples A were dictating and they had to draw. As students start working, the teacher should walk around the classroom monitoring the activity, watching and listening to what students are saying. If they are making mistakes in pronunciation or grammar, the teacher needs to provide the correct structure and pronunciation. The teacher also needs to make sure that they are performing the activity correctly. Answer any questions students might have and assure that everybody is working and participating equally. It is recommended that you set a certain amount of time to finish the activity. Once they have finished drawing whatever their classmates are dictating, I gave them pieces of tape and I requested they tape their pictures on the board so they could compare the original drawing to the one they drew. Finally, I asked couples B to go to the front and describe to the whole class what they had drawn.
Okay, pay attention. Her name is Jess. Sophie is yellow. Red. Blue is green. Shirt is orange. Your height is black. Okay? Thank you.
Some of them did a very good job explaining, but do not worry if they are not very good at speaking. Remember, you will always get those students who are not afraid of trying. but also the ones who feel ashamed easily. Also, at the beginning, it will be hard for them and they will struggle a little bit. But the more you give them similar activities to practice their speaking ability, the more confident they will get. What you need to do as teacher is to encourage them. It doesn't matter that they do not do it as great as you want, but the fact that they are trying is enough to start. This activity could be performed individually. However, I decided to have them work in couples because this way they do not feel as embarrassed and mortified. They were more positive when speaking or going to the front of the class because they felt the support of another classmate. You can be very creative and vary the activity as you think it could work with your group of students, depending on the number of students as well. Remember that what works with one group might not work with the other. Every group is different. So be creative and think of some variations. Starting with the topic, instead of clothing and weather, you could do prepositions of location, for example. Also, if your class is big, like around 45 students, instead of having each couple come to the front and describe their drawing, you could have them go from team to team describing their drawings. At the end, students were happy with the activity. They commented that they would like to perform more activities like this in their English class. And I noticed that even though some of them did not speak that great English, they tried. And this is what we need. You could also award your students at the end a prize, extra points, participation points, or even use this activity as an oral exam. It is up to you how you decide to work it out. I hope you can use this activity with your students and that they enjoy it and learn. This activity is called Find Someone Who. We are going to review the past tense, but it is also a perfect activity for reviewing other tenses such as simple present, future, etc. I started a warm-up by reviewing verbs in past tense, especially irregular ones, which are the most difficult for students. We also did a quick reminder of the structure to write questions in past tense. And I noticed that most of them know the rule, They told me the grammar theory. They said, we start with auxiliary did, then the subject, then the verb in simple form, and finally we add a complement. But it was surprising that at the moment of speaking, they did it wrong. They did not put the rule, they just had recited into practice. Instead of asking, for example, did you eat cookies yesterday? They asked, did you eat cookies yesterday? So this is a clear example of what it has been said. We learn better by doing. If you only present to students the grammatical rules, but don't give them time and opportunities to practice, it is more likely that they won't achieve the learning outcomes. Do not ask students if they understood, because most of the time, if not always, their answer is going to be a big yes. Just give them the chance to practice. This way you are going to realize if they really understood. Remember, we'll learn better by doing, by applying our knowledge in a real context. After going through a quick activation of previous knowledge, I gave them the instructions. This activity was carried out individually, but they interacted with most or all of their classmates. They went around the classroom asking questions to different classmates, one student at a time. And when they got a positive answer, they wrote that student's name on the line at the start of the sentence. The goal of this activity is to collect one name for each sentence stated and as many different names as possible. And again, the teacher walks around the classroom monitoring, observing, listening, correcting the students, giving them feedback, and even explaining to them if they are struggling with grammar. If you are not monitoring, students are going to practice the activity incorrectly, and we don't want that. If they practice wrongly, they will learn it wrongly. Also, to check that they are following the instructions, Remember, students always find a way to cheat and to do it the easy way. So please keep an eye on them. Never stay behind your desk. Interact with your students. Once they have filled in the blanks with different names, have them sit back down and have some of them participate by saying some sentences about their classmates. Also, you could pick some students up, have them go to the board and write the questions. Check the questions as a class to correct the mistakes. You could find variations for this activity as well in order to make it more attractive for your students. I use 2 different worksheets, for example. Dear teachers, I really encourage you to be creative and innovative. You don't need to have super high-tech gadgets and software or state-of-the-art materials to carry out a fun and productive English class. You can use the skills you have. Don't just lecture your kids. Have them move around, have them talk. Remember, we'll learn better by doing, by applying our knowledge. This is what competencies are all about. And remember, engage your class in the target language. Do not worry. They will get familiar with the language. Think about your own learning process when you were learning English. I know that with your help, your students will get better with time.
As we could see, during the activities just presented, the students had the opportunity to develop the following competencies. Generic competency number 1, which is knows and values himself or herself and addresses problems and challenges by taking into account the objectives he or she brings. Specifically from this competency, the attribute that will be developed is faces any difficulties that she or he encounters and he or she is aware of his or her own values, strengths, and weaknesses. Generic competency number 4. Listens, interprets, and delivers appropriate messages in a different context using the appropriate means, codes, and tools. The attribute to be developed is expresses ideas and concepts through linguistic representation. Generic competency number 5, which is develops innovation and suggests solutions to problems from established methods. And the attributes are follows the instructions and procedures reflexively, understanding how each step contributes to the attainment of an objective. Also, another attribute is arranges information according to categories, hierarchies, and relations. Generic competency number 8, which is participates and collaborates effectively in different teams. And the attribute it practices is takes over constructive attitude, coherent with the knowledge and abilities he or she has in various teams that he or she takes part in. Now, the basic disciplinary competencies that the previous exercises let students develop are argues in public a point of view in an accurate, coherent, and creative manner, and communicates in a foreign language through a logical discourse, oral or written, consistent with the communicative situation. I want to say a special thank you to the students who were participating in the video. Thanks a lot for their time and their participation. Thanks to you for watching the video. I hope you can find it useful for your classes and that the activities can be fun during your classes. Thank you a lot, and if you have any suggestions, any comments, you can address them to me at Dirección Académica or to my email, which is appearing on the screen. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you next time.